Welcome to Mission Imperfect, the podcast about navigating the twists and turns of life and embracing the imperfections of the journey.
We're your hosts, life coaches Catherine and Kirsty, and our mission is to support you in finding your own path, your own way, with greater clarity and self trust, no matter how messy or uncertain things may seem.
We address the roadblocks that come up time and time again for our coaching clients, from acceptance and boundaries to values and well-being and everything in between.
As well as asking lots of questions, a coach's favourite thing to do, we'll be sharing thoughts and insights and offering plenty of tips, tools, and techniques for you to try.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to grab a cuppa and a biscuit and join us in getting lost in finding ourselves. Hello and welcome to Mission Imperfect. If you've been listening to us, you'll know that as coaches, we love a question. And this week's episode is all about a pretty big question. So tell us, Catherine, what's your question for us?
Well, it's what do you want for you? Which I think is at the heart, really, of what we do with our clients when we support them as coaches. And it's actually not always an easy or straightforward one to answer, despite its importance. I think sometimes it seems like such an obvious
Yeah,
question, such a simple question, that actually we don't always think to ask ourselves one like that. And it's only when someone else perhaps asks it of you, you think, oh, well, hang on, what is the answer to that? And with this particular question, you can put the emphasis on every single part of the question to really pull it apart. I think that's what we're going to go through today. And I think it is quite an important one to ask in the first place
yeah,
and revisit. And it makes it a bit longer, but I think a bit to put on the end of that question is what do you want for you now or next or at this stage of your life? Because I think that's really important. It might be different to
very
something that
true.
perhaps we've
Yeah,
previously wanted or thought we've wanted. So it's, I think it's at the key of what we do, don't you, Kirsty? It's that kind of
yeah,
simple question, but it tells you an awful lot.
yeah. I think you're right. I don't think we often consider it sort of in its own right like that, do we? That perhaps we tend to sort of grow up with assumptions about what we should be wanting and what we're aiming for, and you just get caught up in that. And there's kind of an underlying assumption about what you should be wanting, perhaps, from life that you just don't really think about.
Yeah, it's a sort of check in, isn't it? I think we spoke
Yeah,
about this before in probably our episode on autopilot, because I think it's very easy to get caught up in just the doing rather than the thinking
yeah,
behind why we're doing what we're doing. Yes, there's going to be some obvious things like our obligations, bills, those kinds of things. But actually, this question can be so broad. It doesn't just have to be about work, it can be about smaller things. It can be about a feeling you want to have or different
mm,
thoughts you'd like to have about how you feel about yourself. It can mean so much when you
yeah.
really take the time to consider it. So
Like,
let's break
what
down
biscuit
this.
do you want? I mean, it's really important, isn't it, to consider these things?
Yes. Well, given that we managed to speak for about 20 minutes, I think, just about biscuits, and we really did take it seriously, didn't we? If anyone wants to check that out, it was a bit of fun for our April the 1st episode about dunking types and so on. But yes, you can really go
That
to
that,
town with these
that
questions if you want to.
that was a very important episode, and I think that's probably one of my proudest moments.
Yes, me too.
But
Me too. We did love that one. We really got into it, didn't we? It just goes to show how much we like biscuits and how they've pretty much made a reference in pretty much every episode, I
I
think,
think so,
before
and
and
rightly
since.
so, rightly.
And
But
rightly so.
let's
Yes.
let's get back to the question. So you said we can break it down. So let's start with that first bit then. So if the question is what do you want for you? Let's focus on the what.
Yeah. Well, isn't that the million-dollar question? The what? What is it
Mm,
that we want? And yes, okay, I think we might have to put things like a lottery win to one side. I think we've even
mm.
joked about that before.
Yeah,
But
certainly
the
until
thing
I
is,
start buying tickets. Yeah.
yeah, well, yes, that is a bit of a prerequisite, isn't it? But sometimes we don't know exactly what it is. Sometimes we do, and we're perhaps avoiding it, hiding from it,
Mhm.
or we think it's too hard and so on. But sometimes we don't know exactly what it is. And the good news is there's no right or wrongs here. It might be anything from a tangible habit that you might want to break or introduce. It can be a goal you want to achieve, a career, a hobby, interest that you want to pursue,
Mm.
or it could be, as I've just mentioned, like a feeling that you want to
Yeah.
change, often about ourselves. So there's no right or wrong to what the what can be. It can be big, small, building something, making something better that's already good,
Mm.
or changing something that feels off or wrong or bad to something that feels like a better match.
Yeah, there's so many nuances there, aren't there? I guess sometimes when you do start considering what it is you want, you look at it as very specific, clear, standalone things. And it is
Yes.
often things, isn't it? You know, the
Well,
the
yes, I was just
car,
about to
the
say,
house, the job, whatever. Yeah.
yes, we think it's something, we often focus on it being a tangible thing, an object or a job or something like that. It must be a thing that we want, but we're just saying it doesn't have to be. That's the beauty of it. You get to decide. It might be something that surprises you. It might be something that was different to what you wanted some years ago. It might be not what you
Mm.
thought you'd say, if you're being really honest with yourself, or expected that you might say. And all of that is fine, big or small, broad, highly specific, expected or surprising, emotional or tangible. Because we're going to
Yeah.
then go on to the other parts of the question, which I think
Oh,
will shed light on that. I think that's probably all we can really say about the what for the moment. Do you think, Kirsty, we're basically saying no rules here?
yeah.
You decide.
I completely agree that it doesn't. I think the point you made about it doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be small things and nuanced things. It's really important because it seems to me that quite a lot of people, if they think about coaching at all, assume it's about achieving big goals and having a big important career and being really ambitious and all these things. And it can be, of course, but it doesn't have to be. It's about getting clear on what you want and how you're going to get
Yeah.
it. However small, in inverted commas, you might think that is. If it matters to you, it's actually not small, is it? If it makes a difference to your life, don't dismiss it as small.
Yeah. It's about making your life, getting through it, better, really, isn't it? Whether that's relating
Yeah.
to a thing that you want to have or a feeling you want to create, just having your life feel like it could be better than it currently is. And it's
Yeah.
okay to want that. We've spoken about this before too. There's no guilt or shame in wanting things to be better than they are. It doesn't mean that something has to be terribly wrong for you to want a change. You can just want something to be better. So, but let's move it forward then to the
Yes.
second part. Then, so we've mentioned the what. Then it's
Hmm.
the do you want, and it's the you and the want that is important in here. It's not about what other
Mm.
people want. It's not what other people want for you either, or what you think you should want, what society generally expects someone like you to want, whatever that
Oh,
actually
yeah.
means. But the things like, oh, a stable and secure job, buying a home in your 20s or 30s, 2.4 children, and that kind of thing, the sort of societal norms, I suppose. What we're talking about is what you actually want.
Yes.
And I'm going to say it's a want rather than a need as well. Of course, there are some things we need to function well as a
Biscuits.
human. But
Biscuits. Right, just stating the obvious.
okay, yeah, yeah. I think some people might be able to function without them, Kirsty. I'm just going to put it out there. I think we might.
Sorry, what?
Yes, I know, I know, I know. I think
Let's
we're
move
being
on
really
from there. I,
honest.
I can't cope with that.
Okay, fine, fine. We're allowed to want things too, and the important part is that it is a genuine want. So, for example, if you're ambitious and want to move up the career ladder, great, as long as that's what you truly want, or not to prove something to anyone else, or mark a scorecard that doesn't even belong to you, or tick some kind of society's expectation list. If you are genuinely ambitious and want
Yeah.
something, then that's fine.
Yeah. If it's fulfilling to you to get really good at what you do and to gain recognition for that and sort of move up your corporate hierarchy or professional hierarchy, whatever it is, that's that's a very valid thing, isn't it? You want that. It makes you happy and fulfilled. If you're doing it to prove a point, probably not so great. And similarly, if what you want is just enough money to get by on, to be able to focus on doing all the unpaid things that light you up and that you really love, and that's great too, to acknowledge that and to find the right way, to manage your life for you. That's what we're talking about here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when we're focusing on what we want, we come up with things that we immediately dismiss as impossible, that it seems too big, you come up with a reaction like, but that's never going to happen, or there's no way I can do that with things as they are. Or, as you said before, I'd need to be able to win the lottery to afford that. And in next week's episode, we're going to be suggesting some tips, tools, and techniques for dealing with those I wants that provoke the reaction of, but it's impossible, I can't have it, and just dismissing it out of hand. So tune in
Yeah.
for that one if you're in that category of, oh, but I could never do that. That's not for people like me.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think when I said at the start, what do you want for you? It might be something you've been ignoring. And if we've been ignoring it, chances are we've put it into some kind of too difficult pile, not for me
Mm,
pile, or I dare not, what will people think of me pile. All sorts of reasons will be going on. We don't want that to be something that puts you off. If you realise after listening to this episode, I do know what it is and I do really want it, because the last part of the question is for you. And
mm.
this is where we're going to encourage you to be selfish. This is something we've spoken about before. Selfish is not a bad word. This is actually about you, and as life coaches, we are very much interested in you and what you want. And that's actually quite a nice thing to have, that time to really focus on you. Because the
Yes,
truth is, no one else can live your life for you or actually act in your best interests than you can. You have to be able to advocate for yourself because it's your
you do.
chance, your opportunity to get the most out of this life that you've
Yeah.
got.
I mean, is it even selfish? Selfish has got such a bad rap, isn't it? But is
It
it
has,
selfish
yeah.
in a negative sense? To make the most of your one and only shot at life? Is it selfish to take responsibility for your own happiness? And maybe that fear of being thought selfish is one of the biggest obstacles to creating a life that we truly want.
It is a tricky one, isn't it? I think you've got to think, as children, our parents are making decisions for us, hopefully in our best interest to protect us as we learn about the world and the kind of person we are. But later on, it has to be down to us, right? We do have to make those decisions in our best interests. And we do have influence from a lot of different directions, don't we, on
Yeah.
what we think might be right for us, what we think we should want.
Yeah, I mean, it comes from everywhere, doesn't it? And I think we've talked about this in other episodes, that sense of sort of subconsciously absorbing other people's values and expectations
Mm,
and conforming to what everybody else is doing or seeming to expect from you, whether that's our peers, from classmates and friends and colleagues and neighbors, the communities we live in, the media and social media, of course, these days have got a huge influence, haven't they?
yeah, exactly. And the truth is, you're actually allowed to disagree with people, your parents, particularly when you get older. I think I've realised much. I can politely disagree with my parents about what's right for me,
You
and
don't
and,
even
and
have to be
everyone
polite
else.
if you don't want to. Yeah.
Well, I think I still like them.
Be
I'd like
nice.
to
Be
keep
nice.
the relationship. Yeah, exactly. But sometimes their view of what is right or appropriate for you, it comes from a place of goodwill, but it's from their perspective, and that's going
Yeah.
to be different from
And it's
mine.
not,
You're allowed to not share the same views as other people, like
of
people
course.
close
Yeah.
to you, your partner, siblings, your children, about how you should live your life. I mean, just a little general caveat about being a decent human being and doing no harm, that kind of thing. But what your
Yes.
career is, your hobbies, your interests, the things that you want for you. If you're really interested in gardening and being outside, but your partner is a sort of city lover, likes to do something completely different, and that's okay. You're allowed to want those different things. You don't
Yeah.
have to have the same view.
No. And yeah, you are allowed to want what you want, as you say, providing it doesn't involve being a dick to other people. And you have the freedom to disagree with everyone else, not just your parents. Argue with anyone and everyone. Well, don't even bother arguing. Just nod and go on and want what you want and go after what you want. It doesn't have to be about whatever anyone else expects or thinks is right for you.
Yeah. So the final part is that now or next at this stage of your life, which I do think is a relevant, like little
Yeah.
addition to the question, because the truth is you aren't the same person that you were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even last year, even though we've probably done our most significant change. So if you think, you as a child to you as an adult, you've developed your personality, you've got your life experiences, you probably are more comfortable with who you are, but it doesn't mean we're no longer changing at all. And I think sometimes we forget that. We think, here I am, adult me, responsibility. This is
Mm.
this is my lot. This is what we've got. And we forget that
Yeah.
actually we are still changing, perhaps even if it's more subtle.
Oh, in the spirit of encouraging everyone to disagree with. I'm going to just question here whether we do change. This might be more a question of how we look at it, but I'm wondering if we change or if it's our sense of ourselves that changes, sort of our willingness to understand and accept ourselves as we are. I mean, maybe this is something that happens when you get old or older. I mean, I'm in my 50s now, and it seems to me increasingly that the core things I want in life aren't actually that different to what I wanted as a child, and nor are the fundamentals of who I am. But as you come into adulthood, I think perhaps you spend a lot of time trying to be who you think you should be, or the person you had in mind that you would be, perhaps in as a
Yeah,
reaction to parents or community or pressure on you when you were younger. And yeah, to some extent, the more I'm wittering on about this, I wonder if this is just
no.
about the way we choose to look at it, and we're saying the
Mm,
same thing. But there is definitely that sense that whether it's we who change or our sense of ourselves that changes, we are in a different place in our understanding of ourselves and our lives and what we want at different points.
yeah.
So I quite
No,
agree. Yeah.
I really like that perspective, and I was trying to think about how I'd apply that to myself. I do understand what you're saying. I think I probably have changed a
Mm,
little bit, but maybe it's not that significant. And you're right. Maybe there was an element of thinking I had to, I don't know, climb some kind of ladder, prove some kind of point that maybe I just don't feel like I need to do anymore. I think perhaps the fundamental things that I also wanted in life, to be honest, don't we all just want a sense of contentment and connection with other people? It's just how does that look? And I think we
yes.
think it looks one way, perhaps when we're younger, than perhaps we do when we reach our 40s and 50s. And we perhaps realize some things are just not as important as we thought, like the sort of status and
Mhm.
ambition and things compared to perhaps some of the more simple things. And I wonder if you get that perspective from life experience. Anyway, we slightly digress, but
A little bit.
yeah, the thing
But
is
we're
with
good at that. We're
adulthood,
very good at that.
yes, we are very good at slightly
Yeah.
going off point,
We
but
play
I
to our
do think
strengths.
yes, yes, exactly. Yeah. The thing is about adulthood, you know, 30s, 40s, beyond, it does come with quite a lot of seriousness, doesn't it? Let's be honest,
Mm.
and responsibility and obligation. Not saying that there's no fun. We can absolutely look for it and create it and have it in our lives, but there are some things we can't necessarily change, and sometimes more things come into the picture. So, for example, caring for aging parents, financial responsibilities of our children growing up and trying to set them up and that kind of thing. But it doesn't mean we have to enter this sort of accept my lot, this is how my life is and will be territory where we go to the bottom of the heap and any change for us isn't either considered as possible or even considered at all. That's the
So
point of
true.
this question. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, our lives are changing, even if it's at a slow rate. Perhaps we are in it, or as you said, our perspective of it is also changing, even at a slow rate. So, it is useful to consider what we want at this stage of our lives. Hence, this sort of periodic revisiting of this question.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that. The fact that there are some things in your life that you feel you can't change, or let's face it, you can't change. Not whilst being a decent person anyway. It doesn't have to stop us wanting things in other areas of life or things around that can make us feel better and give us play more to our sense of who we are and how we want to be in life. And coaching offers such great opportunity to think about that because it's a space where you don't have to worry about what anybody else thinks.
Yeah.
It's our job to think the best of you in a coaching session. You don't have to worry about our feelings. You don't have to worry about what we think. You don't have to worry about any unsolicited advice or being told what you should do or somebody else thinking that they know best for you. It's your chance to just completely explore this. And it can be really liberating, I think.
Yeah, I think that's such a good word for it. So, question this week, no surprises. We're going to invite
Mhm.
you to try it. What do you really want for you now at this stage of your life? And if you do want some support with this, all parts of this question, you determining what is that thing, what is the what that you want, the why, it being truly your want, and the way, how do you get there? for this stage of your life, how it fits practically, sustainably, what to do when the going gets tough. All of that is exactly what we do as coaches with no judgment. So please do get in touch with either of us for a no obligation chat. Our details are in the show notes. And as Kirsty said, we're going to be back next week with some tips, tools, and techniques, aren't we, Kirsty, for this question?
We are indeed. And if you are enjoying our episodes, we'd love it if you would follow us on your podcast platform of choice. And if you've got any comments, as Catherine just said, you can find where we are on social media in the show notes. We'd love to hear from you.
So until next week, take care and we'll see you then. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Mission Imperfect. We'd love to hear your thoughts on any of our episodes, especially if you've had a light bulb moment in answering one of the questions, have benefited from one of the tips, or have a suggestion for an episode topic.
And if these conversations have made you curious about how coaching could help you, please don't hesitate to get in touch with one or both of us to find out more about what we offer. Until next time, keep being imperfectly you. No one does it better.